we minimize things a lot. We say
Yeah.
little. There's a little bleeding, or there's a small amount of this.
It's almost like we're like, we don't want them to feel bad. I don't know if embarrass is the right word, but we don't want to like talk down to them, which we don't, obviously, but they still need to know the facts.
Welcome back, peeps, to another episode of the Tooth Order podcast. Peeps with your peep, Irene and Vic.
Hey.
Here to do what we promised.
Yes, some questions.
Answering questions
straight from the DMs.
The deep down DMs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them are juicy.
Some of them are juicy.
Listen, we didn't tell people how to submit questions in the last episode.
Oh yeah, we forgot.
Totally. We were too busy talking about all of the other things and Rubik's cubing.
Mm-hmm.
So on Instagram, we created some pinned posts at the top. I think the first one, it says like no dumb questions.
Yeah.
And the goal is that people can submit questions in there.
Yeah. Comment.
If you feel comfortable publicly.
Yeah.
And I know like some of the questions that we're going to read, we're going to share with no names, no identifiers of any sort.
Yeah.
And just like share the honest.
Yeah. Because some other people might be in these situations and might be wondering the same thing. So it's good to share.
So those are
Sharing
two
is
places.
caring.
You can send it in DMs, but sometimes it goes into like, there's like so many filters of DMs now for me. I've got like general, I've got primary and then general and then requests and then story comment requests and then another filtered, which is hidden. And those are because of filtered words.
Yes.
So there's a lot of deep nooks and crannies where things, so if we don't get to them, this is why. But that's the plan. So today's just going to be straight questions.
Straight questions.
Just straight cues from the app.
Yep.
What was that?
Cues. And there's a hair on my eyelash.
Get it. I'm just a girl.
Yeah. I'm just a girl. What'd you say the other day? Feed me tacos and tell me I'm pretty.
And tell me I'm pretty. I'm just a girl. Is that when we were talking about going for tacos?
I don't remember.
What's your office? I'm going to ask you a question. When you worked in private practice, what was your office go-to sympathy lunch? So like
pizza.
Was it always pizza?
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of options. There wasn't a lot of things. Or McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like ordering McDonald's or someone would go and pick it up?
We'd have to go pick it up. We didn't have delivery services.
We used to call it sympathy lunch. It was like if our boss ever did something like or like the vibe in the office was off.
So we actually, they weren't sympathy lunches. We just did like a lunch every week. Yeah. Or every 2 weeks.
Every week?
Yeah, or every 2 weeks.
How many people work there?
Like 6, 7.
Well, that's not a lot.
Like at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
8 maybe. Yeah. Let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8.
Who do we appreciate?
8 or 9. Yeah. 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But not everyone stayed for lunch and not everyone was there every day. So. Yeah.
Did you ever sit in your car and eat lunch in your car to be away from people?
Not at this job or sorry, not at my last office, but other offices before that, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
I would say I'm going for lunch, go get something and just stay in my car for the hour.
Is it just because you didn't want to interact with people?
Or it was just,
you're just done.
It was just awkward and they just weren't my vibe and, or everyone would leave for lunch and it would just be me sometimes. I don't know. I've worked in a lot of different offices.
I want to interview someone that sits in their car for lunch regularly to find out why.
Yeah. Quiet.
Maybe.
Reset your brain.
You do have to be like two different people.
Yeah.
Like you need to be on in your op all the time. And then that might not be your personality.
No. Exactly. And I think it was good for me. I had such a background in sales. Like I worked retail,
teacher,
and I served for 10 years and stuff. So I was used to being two different people. I had the people skills already before going into dental. So that was cool. Anyway.
So you could turn it on and off. Okay. Question. So we got 3. What's question number 1?
Question number 1 is my boss wants me to implement a Perio protocol. Where do I start?
Yeah, great question.
Great question.
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Okay, so I feel like I need a little more information just to like kind of know what is currently implemented. But I'm assuming when someone says that they're implementing a Perio protocol is that they don't really have anything aside from the timing So like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months.
And they might not necessarily be doing quad SRPs or anything like that, right? It might just be a 3-month scale.
Right. So I think whenever creating any form of systemization, you need to break apart all of the things that you have to find a place to put them. So I would say to this person that the first thing is like lay it all out. And maybe you do it on paper, maybe you do it. We use Canva workflows a lot, like internally and at the office and with social media. So they're like a whiteboard basically that can be extended forever. And we use sticky notes, like virtual sticky notes, where you write down your item, you put it somewhere, and then the goal is that somehow it's all filtering into itself. And we'll link below the downloadable resource to my Perio workflow just for like a visual. But I think the most important thing is to figure out, what do you have already set up and what are you missing? And then putting them in a sequence based on science. So we've identified that certain things need to be done at a certain time in order for it to have its highest efficiency and effectiveness. So if you are seeing someone, let's say you're seeing a new patient and they haven't had their teeth cleaned in 4 years, 5 years, and you do your sequential assessment in the same order, then you're likely going to find deficiencies, and then you need the science to back up what you're going to do to treat it. So if you just do a full mouth debridement and a full mouth polish and a fluoride and you send them on their way, the likelihood of them coming back 3 months later with an improvement that is to 10% or less bleeding, fewer pockets of 5 to 4, whatever the goal is, the likelihood of that is going to be really low because you're still relying on them at home to do 95% of the work.
And they're not involved in their treatment at that point.
Right.
They're not interested in it. They're just there for a cleaning and you'll take care of it and that's it.
Yeah.
So they don't care.
We talked about this last night. We were like sitting on my balcony looking into the sky, the night sky. And we talked about a lot of different things, but one of them is like how frequently I end up converting a new patient hygiene appointment into a new patient exam appointment and not do anything, like not do any debridement because it requires so much more. I need more information. I need radiographs or I need an assessment. I need a diagnosis. Like I can't diagnose perio here.
No.
Dental hygienists who are actively involved in treating perio cannot diagnose
diagnose anything.
Right. I can't prescribe my own radiographs. So it becomes very difficult to treatment plan and to create a perio protocol when you don't have those systems in place first. Like when are x-rays taken? How are they prescribed? Are we relying on something that was taken a year ago in a different office that's transferred over and is not great quality? And then products. So in our mind, we do the if this, then what? If someone comes in with generalized bleeding, 30, 40%, 50% bleeding, if that, then what? What are we going to do? Obviously, we know mechanical debridement, instrumentation, hand instrumentation. We use powders here. That's going to take you a certain percentage or a certain distance to your finish line, to your goal. Then what? So maybe you're from 50% bleeding, you go down to 40. Well, what's your next tool to get you from that 40 to the 35? And on the research and science side, each one of these things will improve oral health based on a fraction of a couple of percent. So it's not the solution in all, but the goal is that you have some sort of toolbox, and each one of those things inside that toolbox gets you 3% better, 2% better, 1% better, 5% better.
Yeah, there's not one thing that fixes it. Right. You know, you have to use everything
in a researched sequence. So, for example, we put together a lecture for RD Underwood Roof on the use of probiotics, and using a probiotic alone isn't going to 100% fix perio and gingivitis, but in conjunction with scaling and replaning, in conjunction with even the use of hydrogen peroxide, so like irrigation with hydrogen peroxide. That in conjunction with the use of laser, with the use of minocycline, and with the use of a probiotic, all of those things together, when you combine them, you're at like 22 to 23% of an improvement. But if you just have one,
You're not getting anywhere.
You're going to get just a couple of points better, but not totally.
Yeah.
So that is really complicated.
And DNA testing too.
Yeah, oral DNA bacterial testing.
Yeah.
So I would say to this person, first thing is lay out all of your tools and see what you have. And if you're missing stuff, do you have the appropriate interdental oral hygiene instruction aids that fits a variety of different embrasure spaces? So what's your oral hygiene regimen look like for patients? That's really important. Yeah. Do you have options and solutions? Because flossing and brushing is not, a manual toothbrush and standard floss is not going to get you very far.
Archaic.
Yeah. Like did you see what I did with the floss earlier today?
Yeah.
I used it to make sure that my plant is vertical. I tied it to the wall. I mean, for some people, that's all they need, but not for everyone. No. So do you have a specific regimen for oral hygiene instruction for a different AAP classification? So what does your gingivitis patient look like? What is your stage and grade? And kind of carrying it from stage and grade.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what's your increment? So like I'm a firm believer that a 4 to 6 week reeval should not just be specific to patients that are getting SRP. Like I will see a 3-month maintenance appointment person and bring them back for a 4 to 6 week reeval, even if there's like a site specific area. Like I don't like the distal of the 3.6 and the mesial of the 3.7.
I just want to see how it heals.
I want to see how it's doing.
Yeah.
Here's a rubber tip.
Yep.
Like the tissue's inflamed. You've got marginal gingivitis. Like here are the tools that you need to use. I just want to check that one area.
And if it doesn't work, you can pivot and you don't have to wait the 3 months until they come back. You can tackle it right then and there.
Pick up a laser in that exact moment. Yep. And sometimes that helps with patients that are a little more reluctant to accepting comprehensive treatment plans. Because for me, it'd be nice. Like I've laminated sheets with everything so I can show them like, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what I want to do at the 4 to 6 week reeval. This is the cost for it. This is what your 3-month appointment will look like. This is the cost for it. And some of them are just like, whoa, like I just want a cleaning.
Yeah.
They don't understand because this has been this systemic problem we've had with dental hygiene. So we're just doing all of the things that we think the patient is going to be more inclined to pay for, or their insurance is going to be more inclined to pay for.
Or doing what we're told to by the dentist. That's also sometimes an issue.
Right. Yeah. You've got 40 minutes, figure it out.
Yeah.
And there's calculus everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like when you're not in that op, when you're not the person that's providing the treatment, but you're dictating the treatment on the back end, whether that comes from a corporation, from an insurance company, or the practice owner, it becomes really difficult. So I applaud this person who is tasked with this.
Yeah.
It's also I would also tell your boss that it's going to take some time and some resources.
Yes. Money.
They should be paying you.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that you're well compensated enough that this is like, you're taking this on as like an ownership type of thing, but you should be well compensated for it because this is a system and protocol that's going to generate a significant amount of revenue.
And I would say like, have all your resources, have all of this is why we should be doing this. Back yourself up, be prepared to explain why this needs to be in here and what it's going to do for the office, for the patients, for everybody.
Yeah.
And why it needs to be in the protocol.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Yeah. Be prepared for the naysayers or the rebuttals that a patient might say, like, oh, I don't want laser, or I don't want to pay for X, Y, and Z. And I mean, that's fine. But like looking at it from the perspective of we won't achieve 100% of what we want, people can decline. Like
they will.
I mean, it's not in there. It's not an incentive for them to do it, but be prepared to answer those tough questions.
Yeah.
But start off with your sequencing. Start off with your products, your services, and know your numbers. It's like in healthcare, in surgical interventions, they use risk factors in a percentage form. So they'll say, if you don't do this, you are at a 30% increased likelihood of having a stroke. And we don't really do that in dentistry. We don't really say, well, if you don't get a crown on this tooth that is crumbling, you are at a X amount of percentage likelihood for fracture. And we minimize things a lot. We say there's a little bleeding, or there's a small amount of this. Why?
It's almost like we don't want them to feel bad, or we don't want to, I don't know if embarrass is the right word, but we don't want to like talk down to them, which we don't, obviously, but they still need to know the facts.
Yeah. people feel like we're just trying to like,
yeah,
it's okay. You're just a girl.
You're doing great.
You're just wonderful.
Doing great,
oh, you
sweetie.
don't interdental care. That's all right.
Yeah.
Just rinse with water. It's fine. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, every patient isn't going to fit into wanting to do all of the things in the protocol. Maybe they just want some things, and finance could be an issue. But you do need to celebrate the small wins, I think, too. Like if somebody, starts using a water flosser twice a week.
Sure.
It's better than not using it, and you can...
And that'll improve too.
Yeah. And exactly. You grow from there. They started brushing every single day. Awesome. You don't shove everything down their throat all at once and they get overwhelmed and then they usually say no.
That's where like building good interpersonal skills helps. In order to like read the room.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of read the room. If someone has got their back up to you and one word answers, they're not really connecting with you on a personal level, then they're likely not going to take all of your recommendations and go home with like, we can go to Sephora and they do your makeup and then like they give you a basket full of things. Like, these are all the things that I used on you. And I was like, whoa,
great.
Where does this one go? Why does this one look like this one? And then it's like, well, this goes underneath the other one that goes on top of the other one. It's just like super overwhelming. I'm like, so I'll take 3, give me a 3-step, or like a skincare regimen. Similar to that. Sometimes people feel very overwhelmed with so many different elements.
And I think it's how you present it too. Like, I think it's after 10 minutes, somebody will just, goodbye. I'm not listening anymore.
And we wait till the end of the appointment too, which is like exhausting.
Yeah.
You had your mouth open the whole time.
Yeah. You just want to leave.
That's why this stuff is really important to do like right at the beginning. Like spend your 2 minutes knee to knee, say hello.
Yep.
How was your trip? How was the this? How was the that? Do your assessment and then bring them up. That's just what I do. I do my full mouth probe, extraoral, intraoral exam. And then I bring them up for a quick rinse. I print off the Perio chart and I physically write on it. Like I physically circle things, highlight things. My bleeding sites at the bottom in percentages calculated. I create kind of like an interactive thing because if they see it and hear it, they're more likely to absorb it.
Exactly.
And then from there, I physically write the treatment plan on that thing. Like I'll split up the odontogram, sometimes even fold the paper in half just for them to focus only on the one side.
Yep.
Otherwise, if you're just, throwing numbers out, they don't really know what that means.
Over the head.
Over the head.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Okay. That was Q1.
Do your research.
do some research. Yeah.
All right. Next.
And know your demographics.
Definitely.
I feel like if you were to do that to your Perisound peeps, they'd be like, ma'am.
Yeah. No, thank you. I just want a cleaning.
I just want a denture.
I only want to come once a year.
Right.
Goodbye. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is about prevention. So it was about one of your lectures that you did, and that you showed a great new point of view for prevention. I just wanted to tell you that your class yesterday at NYU was the best I have ever seen.
Aww.
You showed a completely new point of view of prevention and a new approach on dentistry. Thank you so much. And then,
Cool.
Yeah.
So backstory of the NYU lecture.
Yeah.
So every year, I guess I would be considered like guest faculty at NYU.
Right.
And every year I do a very similar lecture on white spot lesion management for the fellowship program, which is now being rebranded as the APA aesthetic program. So these are all dentists. They're dentists that have been practicing from all over the world, and they come and they study for it's a 1-year program with an option for a 2nd-year fellowship at the end for aesthetic and cosmetic dentistry. And I think in dentistry, we're very, and I like restorative dentistry proper, I mean, not like as a whole, but in restorative dentistry, we're very focused on fixing the problem at hand. And the prevention side kind of falls into the hygienist's realm, but not all hygienists are trained in restorative.
Yes. So they see prevention differently, for sure.
Right.
And I think having restorative background, you see it as in, you don't want to take away tooth structure. You want to minimize the length of the appointments for the patient and give them the best option where they still get to keep most of their teeth. Whereas in hygiene, you're preventing gingivitis, perio, which is a little different.
Yeah.
I think.
There's like a very small overlap of caries, and that's the fluoride world.
Yeah.
Like the fluoride world or the and I don't say anti, but the without fluoride world. That is the only overlap that we see between restorative dentistry and dental hygiene proper without being a restorative dental hygienist. And we're missing an opportunity, and it's that wait and watch model that irks me.
Yes.
Because often no one's going to come back and it's going to be better. Even if you're implementing oral hygiene instruction and you think you're doing the best that you can, unless you are implementing a specific protocol for them, caries prevention protocol, caries management protocol. I mean, we have Cambra, 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 unless you're using it to its fullest capabilities, it's again, like in that Perio protocol, it's a small percentage of change is going to happen between that appointment and the 3-month appointment. If you're not looking at the consistency, the quality of saliva, if you're not looking at buffering capabilities, acidic intakes, and buffering acidity, if you're not considering all of those little elements, a toothpaste is not going to fix the problem.
So how do we bridge the gap from, we'll say, restorative and hygiene, right? Like, how do we bridge that prevention gap? Of it needs to start kind of in the hygiene chair almost.
Right.
And discussing with patients, you don't want it to get to this point. Let's take care of it now.
But the unfortunate part is a lot of that stuff is not covered. So
my
lecture goes from the early stage of a white spot lesion, which is at its demineralization, prior to cavitation, and the appearance of plaque. So starting at the plaque phase, the maturation of plaque, and the essentialness, is that a word? Whatever.
It is now.
How important it is to use disclosing agent, not just for plaque identification, but fun fact, people don't know this. Disclosing agent changes color based on acidity.
Yeah.
So if you have a dark purple disclosing agent, that plaque is at about a 4.5 pH. Enamel demineralizes at 5.5. Dentin demineralizes at 6.7, I think. Somewhere between 6.5 to 6.7. So if you have exposed roots, if you have crown margins with that dark purple, it's already demineralizing and it's already starting that process. So if you're not using disclosing agent, and people often are like, well, I don't have air polishing.
Yeah.
So how am I going to take this off? And you're going to be sitting there scaling forever.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it comes off with an ultrasonic too.
Comes off with an ultrasonic, comes off with polish. I mean, I don't love rubber cup polishing, but they do have softer rubber cup.
Yeah.
You don't even need to use abrasives.
No.
You can use toothpaste.
Yeah.
So that is the perspective that I shared with these students at NYU, that you need to start with acidity and plaque and then go into your treatments. So I love 3M makes a Vanish XT varnish. It is a resin modified glass ionomer that absorbs fluoride, and it's not permanent. So it lasts about 3 or 4 months. And the goal is that it remineralizes those areas before they become into a white spot lesion. So it takes a chalky white lesion and it remineralizes it. And that would be like step 1.
Yeah.
I mean, step 1 is anything over a 500 parts per million. I love MI paste. I love ClinPro. I love Prevident. Like anything that has 5,000 parts per million or higher is where you start. For anyone over the age of 16 is spit, don't rinse. So the biggest problem is we're spitting our toothpaste out into the sink and then we're rinsing with water.
Yeah,
so
I hate
it decreases the bioavailability.
It does. Yeah.
So that again,
never do that.
Those points on the percentages, right? Yeah. So you've got your bioavailability of something that might be between 80 to 90%.
Yeah.
At its full exposure. And then you're rinsing with water. So then you're bringing it down to like 30 to 40%.
Exactly.
So step 1, toothpaste. Step 2, I love a glass ionomer.
Yeah.
And then I talk about resin infiltration, which seems to be like, everyone seems to think it's just this aesthetic thing.
Yeah. A lot of people do think it's aesthetic, but it's not. It's much more than that.
And so you can use it in 3 different ways. So interproximal, using smooth surface, using the proximal surface kit that remineralizes lesions real quick.
And I think that one's less known about.
because it's difficult.
Yeah.
And no one's really, I mean, DMG is really boosting their presence. I did a couple of Instagram lives. I did a whole Instagram live demo, which we'll link below, where you can watch the procedure on cadaver teeth. And that's what I did at NYU. Like I brought teeth to NYU. Wasn't supposed to do it over the border. Ask me in the DMs about traveling with human teeth. And like, you know, it was an awakening, because otherwise you're not comfortable enough to prep into enamel.
Yeah.
You don't want to create a box. So we're gonna wait until it hits the dentin, and then the cycle of replacing a filling starts.
And it's never as good as your natural tooth, no matter what anybody says.
Or how good it looks.
Yeah.
and then you're starting that life cycle. Mm-hmm. So if that starts when someone's 6.
Yeah.
And then it goes to replacing it when they're in their 20s, and then you're replacing it again late in 20s, early 30s.
And then it turns into a crown.
And then it goes into an MOD, and then a cuspal fracture, and then a crown will go on, and then a tooth can fracture, and then a bone graft and an implant. So you're like setting this person up for their lifelong, like I can see the future. And it doesn't always happen, but often it does.
Yeah. And I think we just need to shift away from just treating and more into prevention. Yeah. I think as a whole, like as a profession in general.
And I bring this up internally with our team a lot, this like problem consequence solution model. It's like Alexandra just rolled her eyes in the background with the PCS.
I have nightmares.
But patients don't understand the consequences and the problems that arise with not treating things early. Yeah. And they're automatically thinking about the dollar value. Well, I'll wait until somebody else pays for it. But maintenance in anything, on your car, in your home, on your whatever, like even if you have insurance, it isn't always going to cover that. So telling people that, you know, the problem is you have an early cavity because of X, Y, and Z, demineralization, the consequences are in your lifetime. Yeah. If you wait, it'll go into a filling, it'll go into another filling, it'll go into this life cycle. And then the solution is that we can fix this early, we can fix it now. Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's going to save you a lot of headache and hassle later. And unfortunately, insurance companies don't see it the same way we do. They're behind, right? Like they're still covering amalgams. And I don't know, other than you in Perry Sound, anyone that still does amalgams.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that still do amalgams in the north.
I mean, in the north, not in this area.
In the north.
But that's the thing, is like the solutions are available, and insurance companies are unfortunately behind in the times. So they're only covering the things that they know have worked in previous lives. So that's my philosophy on.
And this person gets to keep their natural tooth.
Yeah.
Great. It's a win for everybody.
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
All right.
Last cue?
Last cue. Hi, Irene. I admire your work, and as a fellow hygienist, I enjoy learning things from you. It's been an interesting day for me. I received a call from my boss today regarding an email I sent asking about how they decide who works when there's 2 hygienists booked and can only fill 1 hygiene column. But I ended up getting let go today. Not sure what I did wrong, but just asked a question. And I didn't think I would end up getting let go. I was asked to work the next 4 days, but I declined because there's no reason to be there. Should I seek legal advice or cut my losses? So sad. It's sad that things like this are still happening. Where do we begin?
How do we unpack? Okay, so let's highlight the things that need to be unpacked. The thing that needs to be unpacked is that there are 2 people and they can't fill the schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you decide?
Okay. There's that. There's the like, should she seek legal advice?
Yes. For being let go.
There's the what else did she just say?
Should she work the 4 days?
Should she work the 4 days? Yeah. The no need for her to be there the 4 days. Okay. I think like, let's highlight those. Yeah. And this is the tough love part where I see it from both perspectives. For sure. Because I was that hygienist. I worked for an office in Pickering near my parents when I was living at home with my parents. Early Irene years. I think I was like out maybe 2 years. And I worked 8 to 8, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it was so close. I'm almost certain that they only hired me because it was so close. And I was the last of like 4 hygienists. So my patients would get moved out of my column.
Yeah.
And I would be sent home in the middle of the day. So I'd work like the 8 a.m. until like 11 or 12. And then they'd send me home from noon until like 3 or 4 p.m. because the middle of the day is the hardest to fill.
It is.
Especially in a residential area.
Yeah.
In a business area where people are coming in on their lunch breaks, it's a little different.
Yeah.
So they would send me home. And then they'd bring me back from like 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. But I was new and just a baby. It was just a baby.
Just a baby.
Just a little baby. And I didn't know. I didn't speak up for, I quit eventually for that reason. And I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to the dentist and I slipped it under his door with my resignation. And his wife was the office manager. And he was very removed from the team.
Yep.
So, anything that came from him was given to us from information from his office manager and wife.
Yep. I've worked in an office like that too.
Now, I get it because as an owner now, that's easier.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Like I'm only in 4 years and he had probably been in about 25.
Yep.
But you're always going to be the bad guy, unfortunately. And he did that to a lot of people. I mean, I don't say he, I say the office. He may not have even known that was happening. It sounds in this case that it's coming straight from the doc.
Yes, it does sound like that.
But to put things into perspective is in order to have an operatory running full-time for a hygienist, you need between 800 to 900 patients.
Yeah.
So when I built my office, I built it with 2 ops. And now this used to be my office. Now it's a 3rd op. So I'm counting patients basically in order to make sure that I can fill the days for those people. It then becomes a systems issue if you can't fill the schedule. So like if you work for the post office and no one's sending mail, you still get paid, right? Like you don't have anywhere to walk your route, but they're not going to be like, well, you're not coming in today because we don't have any packages for you to. If you work at a I don't know, Ferrari dealership. How many people are buying Ferraris every day? I'd like to know.
Yeah, I would like to know too.
Your people are still there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
they
true.
need to rely on their paychecks.
Yep.
And so I worked for a periodontist whom I love. I'm going to shout out to Dr. Bud, who I still refer to. And he was that guy. He was the guy that these are your hours.
Yep.
You're paid for 30 minutes before, you're paid for 30 minutes after. You get a 1 hour unpaid lunch break, but it was in the schedule. And whether he's on vacation, whether there's a patient, whether like your hours are your hours and your paycheck is your paycheck. I do that here.
Yeah.
Whereas your hours are your hours and your paycheck is your paycheck.
Which is great.
If I can't fill the schedule, that's a me problem.
Exactly. It's not the hygienist problem.
Yeah. But I get it. Like hygienists are very highly paid, right? Some are between $60 to $70 an hour, which is what mine are paying. Yeah, in Toronto.
Not up north.
But I get it, right? Like if you don't have a patient in the chair, then that's part of the overhead.
Yeah.
That is getting.
But I think it's for a lot of practice owners, it becomes, I can cut costs here by sending them home.
So I implore dental hygienist I advise greatly, can't speak, dental hygienists to ask these questions during your interviews.
Yeah.
It's almost, we should put together a resource of like the questions you must ask and the answers that you're looking for that red flag. Early. So like what happens when this happens? Are my hours guaranteed?
Mm-hmm.
Are my days guaranteed? In order for it to be completely transparent that these are the things that I need.
Yeah. It could be the best office ever, but if they don't treat you how they should treat you and respect you, then it's not the best office ever. You know, it could have all the fancy technology, but if it has these red flags, not
Every
worth.
office is going to have a red flag.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the reality is you're dealing with humans and people who are looking at it from a variety of different perspectives. So like there's always going to be something, but it's just a matter of do you feel that they're working in the best interest of the people that are there?
Yeah.
So that's breakdown number 1. Breakdown number 2 of the not working the 4 days after.
Yeah.
I don't know what the notice period is. So most of the time, if you're let go, if you're in it, I don't know if technically there's a lot of dentists who are paying hygienists as contractors, but really you're not a contractor. You're not bringing your own instruments. You're not bringing your own patients. So they're paying them in order to not have to deal with the tax ramifications and also with the employment ramifications. Here in Canada, there's EI, employment insurance, and all of those things. So by not putting them in payroll, they think that they're actually doing themselves a favor, but you're not, because then you're missing out on your deductions.
Exactly.
So technically, by ESA standards, which is the standards that we practice here, there's a 2-week period. And it's either a 2-week notice period where you're giving someone 2 weeks notice, they're still getting paid for those 2 weeks, or you're physically handing them a check and saying your services are no longer required and here's your 2 weeks pay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for them, asking for 4 days is weird.
Yeah.
So you're either giving me a full 2 weeks notice and saying this is, and then if you choose you don't want to go back, that's on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you can decline it.
Oh yeah, and that girl did, and I probably would have.
4 days is a weird number.
It is weird. Maybe that, I don't know, that's what was scheduled and nothing else was. I don't know. It's very
but that
weird.
Still doesn't like.
Yeah.
So I would say what are the standards and where you are, and I don't know where this person is. Located
or how long they had been working there.
Right.
Or anything like that.
But I think even if you're out of your probationary period of 3 months, it's still required that you do that, whatever notice period. So that's that. And then on the burning of the bridges side, I've burnt some bridges that I've been able to mend with time, but like there are always regrets early in your career. I would say the dental industry is a very small place.
Yeah, it doesn't seem small, but it is.
It's very small. Everyone knows everyone, and you're going to look for a job somewhere else. And in the protection of your own mental health, going into something of a deep legal proceeding seems like on the resources side is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
On the time commitment side is going to be extremely cumbersome. And then do you have enough documentation?
Yeah. And if you live in a smaller town or city too, word's going to get out. And if you're looking for another job in the meantime, somebody might not hire you because of this going on.
Yeah.
You never know, right?
And I don't want people to think that I'm encouraging you to be silent for being wrong.
Absolutely not.
That's not true. If you're getting abused, if there are like deeper seated things that are happening, I'm not saying like be silent and don't talk about it.
No.
But going the legal route often renders you not the closure and then sometimes not the outcome that you need.
You have to weigh the pros and cons of.
Worst case scenario is you don't get what you want out of it, but at least you're comfortable that you went through the legal proceedings. Sure. I think like my advice to someone is like, do you have a friend in law? Do you have someone that you can like throw this out or pay the $400 for a consultation with a lawyer and say, these are the things that I have. Yeah. Is this going to get me anywhere or am I wasting my time? Yeah. And if you have an honest lawyer, they might tell you just, you might want to leave it alone. I've seen a case like this before. It didn't go well and it cost them 10 or 15 grand.
And that's a good point too. Like see if you can find similar cases to what you're dealing with first to see how it ended, where it went.
Yeah.
See if
I know
you can find
the
how long
Canadian Dental Hygienists Association and the ODHA, the Ontario Dental Hygienists Association, have free legal advice.
They do, yeah.
So you could call and part of your membership, you have free legal advice. Yeah. So I don't know if you're in Canada, but that, and if you're not, and if you're in the United States, the ADHA may have something similar. Yep. So maybe go that route.
Yeah.
We did it. Our 15-minute episode turned into an hour as per usual.
Oopsies.
We're almost there. It's all good. Op talk.
Yeah, op talk.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Submit your questions. Yes. We'll link below to the Instagram pin post or send a DM and we're happy to chat about
all
your
dental
questions.
Things.
All teeth. All dental things.
Yes.
All right. Until next time. Peace
Bye.
out, peeps. Bye.